All right, welcome to the Network Plumbing Working Group meeting for Thursday, September 13th, 2018. Does everybody have the agenda up? Yes, if you don't, I'll paste the agenda doc into the chat. All right, so we got a couple of agenda items, and I guess we'll just start off with, I was finally able to finish the Markdown conversion, and I pushed a PR for the Kubernetes community GitHub repo that has a docx version, an ODT version, a PDF version, and the Markdown version of the spec from V1 from back in August. So that should be up, and hopefully that will serve as the long-term home for the V1 specification. I'm kind of waiting for somebody else like Tim or somebody to say yes, this is okay to put it there. I think we talked about it in SIG Network maybe about a month or so ago, and decided to all try this Kubernetes community repo as a first pass. So that is that. I have finally made that happen. Next up, do you want to talk about source-based routing and multi-network, Corel?
Yeah. So once again, I'm just looking for my abstract, actually, which one I shared with you. Okay, I'll copy the link and I will paste it in the agenda. Actually, okay, let me paste the copy. Could you guys be able to see that one? Actually, the link in the agenda, actually. So the use case here is like, it's like this use case is there for like many months, actually. So the use case the Peter was saying is that he wants to expose the services in the additional network as well. So one of the valid use case, he has put it in the Kubernetes SIG group on his particular project, and there was multiple people were asking me the same thing when I was working on the multi-reference implementation. So it goes back to the same conversation we had like 1 year before. What will be the Kubernetes service impact on multiple networks? I remember like last September 2017, I think you put a proposal like gathering every inputs of various companies has put various proposal. For example, myself, Intel has put a proposal, SETI has put a proposal, Huawei has put a proposal, like for like 3 proposals were there related to multi-networking on services. Then you consolidate those proposals. So I just took that proposal and then tweak it a little bit for the multi-networking with use of reference implementation using our version 1 spec. So how it looks like on that particular implementation. That's why I came up with a suggestion link. It's just an idea, actually. So how you can do the multi-networking with service supports as well. So is that possible for me to share the screen, actually?
I think so. Can you try and see if it works?
Let me try, actually.
Let's see. I think it should work.
Okay, it's working. Yeah, it's working. Yeah. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yep, I can.
Let me just open this link. Okay, it's loading slow. Okay. Okay, cool. Just I will go through a little bit, actually, from the introduction. So this spec is actually your spec, if you remember, Dan. long back actually, September 2017. So I just used that one. So I didn't change anything on the Kubernetes core or API, or this particular proposal is nothing to do with Kubernetes. So the entire implementation will remains outside the Kubernetes. It will be like a daemon set which could able to watch the creation of the services, and then it can create additional endpoints to those services actually. And the network attachment definition and the pod spec remains the same. There won't be any changes on that one. It remains the same. There may be minor changes will be there, which I will explain later. And what I was proposing, I mean, trying to put idea is that the service impacts should have kind of annotation in which we can specify which network this particular service you want to expose. So you just can reuse the same annotation which we were using in the version 1 spec. And then, so I'm currently not considering into the load balancing and node ports. I'm just considering only for the cluster IP address. So that these things will be, we have to explore a little bit more. And it also requires a lot of efforts on the load balancing stuff. So I'm not considering that one for the particular initial phase discussion or for the POC. And then the next one is that how the spec of overall the services and the pod will look like. So it's the same thing. The pod 1 and pod 2 will have the same annotation as we said in the version 1. The interesting part is the next one, the network. So the one thing I plan thinking of introducing is the service CRD. So we mention in the network attachment definition itself which service CRD it has to be, you want these particular things to be connecting to. And then comes the main part of routing the information. Let me see whether I can zoom it out. Okay. The main problem in this case is that we want to specify this particular network wants to expose to a particular service. So how you can do it? You can do it either by the DNS or through, and also using the routing mechanism. So we already have Multis. So the mechanism of what I was trying to put together is like you have an admission controller which could able to watch the service creation, and if its service creation is happening, it able to detect what is the network which is specified for that particular service, and then it can connect to the controller or service manager or whatever the mechanism is that could able to hook into Multis and say for this particular network you have to connect this particular interface to this particular service virtual IP address. That's where the routing kernel IP routing rules comes in, and that's a thing. And the DNS is the one I was discussing with Peter White. He is having an initial work he is currently doing on the DNS. I yet to see his proposal actually what he is currently doing. But once that proposal is done, I will try to link that one to this particular POC or try to get more information around this. But this is just an initial idea I'm having. It may not be the concrete one, but I just need to get your guys suggestions or idea around this. Whether it's doable or you guys think it's a crazy idea or something.
Do you mean the DNS part specifically or the proposal overall?
And proposal overall, actually.
Okay. It looks interesting. One thing that I'd like to see is some explicit language around what clients that aren't multi-network aware would do with a service that specifies a network. Like, how would that work? How do we expect that to fail? How do we expect that client to actually behave in that case?
You mean the internal client or the external client? You mean within the cluster?
No, just something that, because I mean, the Kube API is pretty rich, and there's a lot of things that talk to it. So assume you have some random client that listens for services and
Mm-hmm.
maybe tries to do something, talk to that service, whatever. What would happen if that client encountered a service that had a network annotation, and
Mm-hmm.
that client was unable to access that network's data plane?
So what version of the service object would that client be speaking?
As far as I understood Carell's
Yeah.
document here, he's not modifying the service object at all.
No,
He's just adding annotations to the service object.
it will be using the same version one actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's the behavior that I'm interested in here too. And I think, to help flesh out the proposal, we should really talk about that, or at least think about what that backwards compatibility looks like.
Yeah, I can do
And
that on you. Sure. Yeah.
it might be something like, if the service exists, but there aren't any endpoints for it because, somehow the endpoints are hidden from those clients unless they know about multi-network. Maybe that works. I'm not sure. But
Mm-hmm. I
it'd
mean,
be nice to
the
explore that.
yeah, I will do that one. So
Okay.
I'm currently working on that one. There's endpoints creation actually, how to do that one. So that's the area I'm currently working on. So how to
Okay.
create the additional endpoints as for that particular services actually. So that's my goal to explore more on that particular thing actually.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
this proposal is nothing to do on the load balancing. That is something little bit we have to see more use cases on done. But this is just to uh, create the connections as for the additional network actually. That's where I'm trying to pitch this one.
Right. The other thing that comes to mind is with DNS, we're not really doing much with DNS and CNI at this point. And it
Yep.
might be interesting to be able to utilize the DNS that gets returned from CNI somehow in Kubernetes. And maybe that could be an avenue to solve at least part of the DNS question there.
Mm-hmm.
Since if you're able to look up a name and that gets routed to a specific server based on
Exactly. Yeah.
so that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously that would require some Kubernetes changes, but I think we might want those changes anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's why I want to discuss with Peter White as well. He's currently not actually he's couldn't able to attend today's meeting, but I'm planning to have a call with him as well. So I will discuss more on his DNS work as well.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think we all probably need some time to digest this, but this exploring the impact of multi-network and services was definitely a goal of this working group. So thank you for trying to push that forward.
Yeah, maybe this may not be the immediate work we are thinking to carry out, but it's something I was thinking for a long time because it's keep on popping up in my Slack or in my email that people are asking me this particular question actually. So I'm just started exploring that one.
Anybody else have thoughts or comments on this approach or Carell's document?
Carell, do you have some kind of actual implementation of this, like just to see that it works?
No, I just created some of the implementation around the endpoints actually, whether the endpoints is able, you can able to create those endpoints actually.
Mm-hmm.
But that's other than that, I didn't create any particular POs actually.
It'd be interesting, I think, to think about how, well, just how this might be implemented and
Yeah,
see
sure, yeah.
that it might work. That might be something interesting.
Yeah, maybe this one won't work in all scenarios, maybe, but only in certain scenarios I'm expecting this one to work just to make the connection happen. Actually, I'm not looking for a full-fledged solution that is, it will support
take
load
one of
balance.
the as an example and just so it'd be interesting to see something a little concrete to see how something that interacts with API can leverage, like so outside client which talks to the API, how would that actually interact with this new service object.
Yeah, that one I yet to explore the outside. I'm currently concentrating on the internal clients actually within the cluster.
Oh,
That's
sure,
where
sure. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, that's my first target. Then once I able to succeed on that, then I will be looking on the external one actually.
Yeah, right.
Okay, cool.
All right, thanks, Corral.
Yep.
So I think next up, I was wondering if there was any update on the conformance tests stuff that we had talked about in the last meeting.
Yeah, I'm afraid I haven't gotten much done. I updated a little bit, but not much.
Okay. Fung, do you know if you or Doug were able to spend any time with that?
We have not so far.
Okay.
We should get together, Mike. Let's try to spend some time to update this the test cases at least. Okay.
All right. And then not to continue to put Corral and Fung on the spot, but do you guys have an update for the group on the Multis implementation of the specification at all?
You mean which one? Sorry, I was.
Sorry, I was just. Do you guys have an update on the state of the Multis implementation of our V1 spec? Kind of where are you guys at with the Multis side of things?
Yeah. So this one, fortunately, we got a PR actually for the bandwidth and capacity flag actually. And I forgot the user who did this particular implementation work actually. So that PR is currently there, and it's kind of working actually. I tested the PR, so I think we can make a tick for this bandwidth. It's almost done. Maybe if you want to look at the PR, maybe you can look, but I think it's done. But back to this capacity bandwidth. Okay, I think we are not doing this annotation part, the pod annotation. It can get the pod annotation. I think if that particular PR is only doing the capacity flag actually. That I'm pretty sure, yeah. So the bandwidth is still, we have to do it actually. So I will take that PR and I will continue that one. And on the V1, there is another implementation we did is the admission controller. The admission controller has done. I don't know what status you have put for the admission controller from the last one.
Was the admission controller validating the JSON field of the network attachment definition?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is done actually.
Okay, is that a standalone code or is that integrated into Multis?
Actually, it's a standalone actually, but it's hosted in the repo, Multis repo, but it's a standalone admission. So similar to other admission controller, you can run it in any cluster or you can run it anywhere actually. The admission controller is something like that. And on the device plugin and CNI, we pretty much have like a good branch on Multis that is it's aligning with the device plugin main. For the first device plugin we took is SRV, a network device plugin, and it's currently working actually. One of our engineer called Abdul made it work actually. So that alignment is happening. And on the NUMA, we have initial POC which is done by one of our engineer Luis on the NUMA on the alignment with the device plugin. So that is also currently in the code review. So it may take another couple of weeks that we will flush everything in the open source actually. So those things are still in work actually. Yeah.
Could you put a link to the code for the admission controller into the agenda doc? I just added an item for that. And then also,
I can do it.
When you say it's in the repo, do you mean it's in the Multis repo or it's in the Intel Corp repo?
No, it's in the Multis repo actually.
Okay. Is there any plans that you've got to split that out into its own repo so that it could kind of be a standalone component that others could use?
Yeah, I can do it actually. So you want me to put it in as a separate project in the Intel repo? Or?
Yeah, I was thinking that because then at least other people could probably fairly easily use it. and it wouldn't necessarily be tied to Multus, because it sounds right now like it's actually pretty independent.
Yep, it's independent actually. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it might be good to just have that in a separate repo under Intel Corp or
Okay.
similar. So.
Okay, so I can do that one. Yeah.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Thanks. And that actually takes care of one of the questions that I had for the V2 considerations document. Does anybody have any specific thoughts about V2 considerations left over from last time? We had a couple items that we were going to punt until this week. Unfortunately, some of the sponsors of those items are not on the call. Are there any that anybody wants to talk specifically about? I did do some research on some of the ones that I was talking about last time, so I can explain a couple of those if people want. Other than that,
let's see. I think we did talk a little bit about the SRV one. So I think we are pretty much ready to talk about that. I think we can. Well, the next meeting is ONS, so we probably won't be able to do that. But likely the one after that, we should be able to do a demo of the SRV enablement, like how all the components work together. And but I think our conclusion so far has been that there will be no change needed for V1 spec, or spec at all in general. And I think we can basically mark that as good, right? So.
Okay. And I'm trying to find out exactly which item.
Yeah. So let's see. Okay.
Somewhere.
All right. If we can figure out which item that is.
Was that number 5? Device plugin, CNI, and resource management alignment needs investigation to determine whether or not we need changes to the spec. Fung hopes to the conclusion is no changes.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Sweet. I will strike that out for the moment.
Perfect.
And let's see. All right. I will also sign you up in the agenda doc for, let's see, you said a month from now?
Yes, it'll be the next one.
October 4th.
Wait, no.
Yep.
It's
11th,
right. Is that right? Yes.
11th. Yes, you're correct.
Okay.
All right.
I just posted the branch which we are working on, the device plugin actually.
Well, hopefully by then it will be in the main branch, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a plan actually.
All right. So, see, we also had punted until this meeting. See, neither Doug or Suresh are around for dynamic attachments. We had questions around making parts of the spec optional. For example, a plugin would implement selection and status, but would not implement the network attachment definition part of the specification. For some of these, given our current attendance and some people are out, should we continue to discuss any of these or just punt these again until the next meeting?
Maybe next meeting actually.
Yeah, for this particular one, we can wait because I don't think anyone here is trying to push that.
No, I think that actually came from Peter, maybe.
Right.
Originally.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Peter also had the network attachment selection annotation for replica sets. I feel like I understand the problem, and so I added that text there about replica sets and IP ranges. But it would be good to have him on the call to discuss that further. Other than that, was there any update on predictable interface naming, Fung, from Doug or Tomo?
No, I don't think. I mean, I think this is something we fairly. I mean, we understand fairly well. I feel like this is something we should be able to do, right?
Can you explain what it's predictable interface naming scheming Maybe I lost that one. Maybe I understood and I forgot it.
Yeah, I think the idea there was to have some way of knowing that a specific interface name in the container belonged to a given network, just looking at the interface name. Is that more or less
Yeah.
fun?
Oh, okay.
And
So
that's
like,
if you don't specify a name, right?
yeah,
Yes.
yep.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah.
Something like that. Okay, I guess we'll kind of punt this list again. I mean, again, the goal for all this kind of V2 stuff is to identify some things that we feel like we can do in the next couple of months, and then
Right.
things we can do in like the next 6 months for like a larger V2. It's not looking like anybody is really yelling about specific things that they want for a V1.5, other than potentially the what was it, bandwidth and capability flags things, which
Right.
that item I believe was there are probably some gaps there in the spec, and so we might want to clarify how the implementation reports capability flags up to the runtime and how it deals with those in the sidecar networks. So other than that,
On the last item, the 19th item, which was I'm interested, is on the dual
right.
stack support with IPv4 and IPv6. Actually, I thought there was a proposal or KEP, which is it's there on the Kubernetes community itself, right?
I thought kubeproxy worked already for V4 and V6.
Yeah, but I mean, on the dual stack, if I want both, actually.
Okay. So what was your thought, or what was your ask on this particular item?
So is that something that like overall SIG network is trying to push, like dual stack support? Like currently what happens in Kubernetes, like either you can run it with IPv4 or IPv6, but the problem in this case that if you want both the things, then you have to have expensive NAT between these
Right.
two components, or else you have to have one cluster on IPv4, another cluster on IPv6, and it's kind of difficult actually.
Yeah, the goal of upstream SIG network is to have dual stack working eventually. And single stack was a way to get there, but I'm pretty sure the goal is still to have dual stack working in the same cluster.
Okay, cool.
So,
okay, cool.
Yep.
So if that is the case, I don't want to put this one here. We can remove this actually.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
I can do that.
Right. This seems like it's a SIG network item. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Given all of that, I think we will probably try to wait until the next meeting for some of these things. But Feng, you're saying that you and possibly Doug and maybe Tomo will not make the next meeting due to ONS?
Correct.
Okay.
And Crawl, and I'm guessing a bunch of other people.
Okay. I guess the ask until the next meeting, so that maybe we can try to get at least a couple of these knocked off for the next meeting, would be if your name is next to any of these items, please make sure that there's an adequate description of what that item actually is, and maybe what the current state of that investigation is, if any.
Okay.
So, and then I guess we will see all of the Doug, Tomo, Feng, Corral, etc. on the 11th.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up, or any other comments?
So a question I have about regarding just this list, the way we're going to work through this, it looks like we said there are a list of potential short-term items that we can do. But if we are not seeing a lot of traction in some of those short-term items, can we go ahead and say, let's go ahead and look at some of the potential longer-term items and maybe start working on those?
Yes.
Maybe we don't need a 1.5, right?
Yeah. No. That's a great idea, because obviously we can identify an item, but if somebody really wants that item and nobody else has stepped up to do the work, then that item's not going to happen. And so if there is interest in some of the longer term stuff, definitely let's start talking about those and try to get some mass around POCing those things and figure out what we need to do.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Because I definitely feel like some of the features that people are more interested in are some of the larger scale efforts. So maybe we can talk about those. Okay.
Well, that's fine. Okay, and then so I guess Feng, then an ask for you for the next meeting would be if you could mark some of those ones that you think, maybe like one or two, because obviously we can't hit everything.
Sure.
Mark the ones that you're interested in talking about.
Okay.
And maybe fill in some detail around existing efforts there, or what the kind of status of that is, if anybody has thoughts on where that could go.
Okay.
And then we can start bike shedding on all of that kind of stuff.
All right. Yep. Sounds good.
All right. Anything else anybody wants to discuss? Going once, going twice. If not, then we'll close this meeting out, and our next meeting will be September 27th with a partially different set of attendees due to ONS, but hopefully we can get a few things knocked off the agenda.
All right.
So thanks, everybody.
Sounds good.
Good weekend.
Thank you. All right.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.